Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Xbox Casuals, the Xbox podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deering, and alongside me, as always, is the man, the myth, the one who didn't get laid off this week, Josh Finney.
God, that took an extremely dark turn.
I know.
Yes, I am. I'm indeed here. I apologize to everybody. I was catching up on sleep about 20 minutes ago, so I'm here now. I'm awake. I promise.
I'm also here, Josh. It's okay. We made it sort of through the holiday break.
God, it was a rough holiday.
Oh my gosh.
We made it. We made it though. Woke up to news this morning I was not planning on waking up to. That was startling to wake up to. I mean, we already knew the final shape was delayed, but the date that it's coming. Yeah. We got the date, and it's my birthday. My 32nd birthday will be spent sitting in a waiting queue for the final shape.
Yeah, did you watch Blackburn's video today?
I did watch Joe Blackburn's video, yeah. We'll address a little bit of that later on with some initial thoughts. Full thoughts coming Thursday.
Yeah. Thursday, Tower Casuals.
If his video had been any longer, I probably would have jumped on and done like an emergency 20-minute pod.
Yeah.
But that also would have been if we hadn't already known it was delayed, I would have done one.
Yeah.
But considering Jason Schreier broke the news a month ago, everybody who was in denial, take a lap, because let me tell you, the man does not miss often in his reporting.
No.
Like him, hate him, love his attitude, hate his attitude. He doesn't really miss. If Jason's reporting on something, we take it pretty seriously around here. It's kind of like the general rule of thumb, if Bloomberg is reporting on it, or like The Verge, I'm gonna take it a little bit more seriously than like VG247 or I have a hierarchy of video game sources in my head. And those two are pretty damn close to the top, if not the top. If I see something from Jason Schreier or Tom Warren, it's probably true.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and then all the other websites just report on what they reported on now.
I mean, there are other websites, and I don't mean to diminish the journalistic work of several other sites. We've talked, especially on Tower Casuals in recent months, and really on this show too, because we covered the Activision Blizzard lawsuit. People like Rebecca Valentine and Matt Kim do really good work over at IGN. Yeah. I know that's taboo to say on an Xbox show. IGN did good Xbox work, but
I feel like they're the exception now, though, not the rule. For major,
I think it's and it's funny that we're having this topic kind of unintentionally, because it's something that's really come up in the Xbox community since the Game Awards nominations came out.
Yeah,
about Xbox not getting recognition, and Destin did a whole video on this. I think it was really well done. And I think that he makes a lot of good points, and that's because Destin's been in this industry for a long time. Over there, he's probably covered Xbox the longest outside of Ryan McCaffrey. Who as far as Xbox goes, Ryan is kind of the authority as far as I'm concerned. About this ridiculous. I feel stupid even saying this. The Xbox tax. Have you heard about this, Corey?
The Xbox tax?
Yes. So apparently it is this.
Is this like the Switch tax?
Oh my god, no! This is even stupider. The Switch tax is true. Games get charged more because they have to be on a cartridge and stuff. This is the idea that because something is on Xbox, it will not be critically acclaimed or sell well. And
I've heard that.
I think that's absolutely ludicrous and silly, and that was backed up by all the. It's funny because now I do think there is a dual standard, but I don't think it's from journalists. I think it's from the general public that there's a double standard. Something got an 86 or an 87 on Metacritic from Sony. Oh my god, it's gonna be it's got to be the Game of the Year nominee. And then, but when an Xbox game gets that, it's not nominated for things. That was the correlation they were trying to draw very poorly, very poorly. And I was you know what? It's one specific award show. Because you can't point out to these people that Forza Horizon 5 got Game of the Year from IGN in 2021. And that Psychonauts 2 and Halo Infinite were also nominees. Pentiment got a perfect score last year from them.
Game Informer gave Halo Infinite their Game of the Year.
Yeah, well, but see, like it's not the Keeleys, so
Yeah,
it doesn't count.
I know.
And they're like, because that's the one that most people think of. And I was like, I really do hate that. I personally don't like that I understand why he's trying to do like, oh, video games need like their own Oscars. Yes, and you should not be running it. I'm sorry, I love you,
Yeah.
Jeff. If like some like national board of video game creators decides to have you be the host, that's one thing.
Yeah.
I don't like that you're trying to present, and you're like you do it. I've gone over this before on like pods for years. You announce your nominees when there's still like 2 months to go in the year,
Mm-hmm.
and that's in an age where indies are being celebrated and are some of the best games of the year. Like you miss out on stuff. Josh Sawyer, we talked about it last episode. Josh Sawyer
Yeah.
was pretty annoyed that Pentiment wasn't eligible last year and then gets forgotten about this year. That's a game that got perfect scores from people.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah, and also like you announce games for Game of the Year that aren't even out yet. Like no offense to Alan Wake 2, and I haven't played it. I don't know how good or not
Alan
it
Wake
is.
2 had come out, but for the record, it had come out when we got the nominations.
For other things though, like the golden joysticks and other things, they were
From what I've gathered, like golden joysticks in them, and they kind of go by the same thing. That's even more egregious than Keeley. Thank God that doesn't get as much attention anymore. They did their awards ceremony in October.
I know.
From what I gather, they go based on when press got access to games, and I still think that's really stupid. We had the whole Jedi Fallen Order debacle in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Which I maintain if that had come out in 2019, it did. If it had been eligible, it wins Game of the Year that year. In my like personal opinion, I think it wins Game of the Year in 2019. I don't think there was really much else that would have won it.
Awesome.
I don't remember what won it that year, but I think it might have been Death Stranding. Death Stranding at least won Best Direction. I know that for a fact. I don't know what won Game of the Year, but it would have been one of your 5 or 6 nominees for sure. Especially then when we see that it got Game of the Year awards from several publications.
Sekiro won in 2019. But...
Okay, maybe it wouldn't have won, but it would have been it would have been one of your nominees.
Mm-hmm.
And Keeley's response was just to like shrug his shoulders and say, well, we can't get to everybody. Like, yeah, you can. Do your fucking ceremony in January like the rest of the award shows. Yeah. Like, do it in January or February. Like, I get that you don't want to, but you have like this goal. You could take the week after Christmas to announce your nominees. No one else is going to announce news. Everyone will be focused on your shit.
Mm-hmm.
And do your ceremony like the third weekend of January or something. I don't know. Like, my brother in Christ, it is not that hard. But hey, there's this whole idea that the press hates Xbox and this and that, and like they point to like some offhand tweets. Like one of the ones that was being circulated was Kat Bailey's tweet from just after the Sony showcase that was pretty poorly received this year. And it was like, well, at least we know that Sony is going to release games of some sort in 2024, unlike Xbox. And I actually thought that was kind of funny because let's be honest, we've had some years where there ain't shit coming out. Despite we know how much is in the pipeline. 2022, for example, we had a hope and a prayer in 2022.
Yep. Did we even have that?
I mean, so it's funny because the games that came out, I think, were genuinely good games.
Yeah.
But smaller games, and like that's there's been a whole discussion about it. We'll probably talk about it more in the new year about like the need for these smaller in between games. And I think like when you have an ecosystem like Game Pass, those games can thrive. And so we're sitting here screaming like, no, there's still good stuff to play. It's just not the AAAs, but the general public is going to ignore it because it's not AAA.
Yeah.
Just like the people who are determined to prove the Game Pass is not a good deal. Like, okay, well, we look at your profile. You don't play any indie games. You play the biggest AAA games and, like FIFA. Like, what are we supposed to do with this information? First name, bunch of numbers. What are we supposed to do with this valuable data we've gathered?
Right.
So it's just completely ludicrous. I find it hilarious that y'all think that, and like you look back and it's like, man, they actually haven't had like a bad couple of years. Just the games are so spread out, and there's been a lack of like original IP. Yeah, I think it's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, all Sony had this year was what? Spider-Man? They didn't have anything earlier this year.
They had Spider-Man and
PSVR 2. I guess.
Yeah, the first half of the year was put completely into PSVR 2 and like Call of the Mountain and stuff. And like, to be fair, they did have like what's considered one of the best expansions like ever in Burning Shores.
Mm-hmm.
But I made the same argument. Like, okay, I mean, if you're only going to have one game, though, Spider-Man 2 is a pretty goddamn good thing. That's like as close to a lock as you can possibly have, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a lot different than saying, well, all Xbox had this year was Flight Sim and Psychonauts 2. You know, like, not saying that to disparage Psychonauts. Psychonauts 2 was my personal game of the year in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a lot different than say, well, like, we consider Xbox having a good 2021, right? And you look at it and it was like, well, it's Flight Sim, it's Psychonauts, it's Age of Empires, Forza, and Halo. Like, cool. Like the seventh and eighth entries in two of their long running franchises, a sequel to a 2005 platformer that most of today's youngins have never heard of,
Right.
and planes.
Yeah, planes.
So
you're telling me the kids
and
these days
not
aren't into
a bad
planes?
spinoff of Cars. So like,
don't forget Planes, Fire and Rescue, the sequel. Which
it's funny when you look at things like that, and we're like, you know, I saw arguments from the other side, like they had a great 2021. Like, really, all the PlayStation really had this year. You know, they had Ratchet and Clank, which, Rift Apart is good, and they had Returnal, which was, got great scores, but like, if you're not into Souls likes, you probably didn't like it. And it's like, and they're like, well, but it's just Halo and Forza. Like, yeah, but it's really good Halo and Forza. Like, I need you to understand this. We're eating good over here now.
Like, also, you got to look at Halo in the context of when it launched and not the year after or so. I mean, it's in a pretty good place now.
That was my whole argument. I'm like, yeah, man, I stepped away for a whole year and I came back and I'm having a blast, But I played a lot of Halo for that first season. I played a lot of Halo. I know those launch maps like the back of my hand. I know them as good as I used to know Halo 2 maps back in the day. And it's like, yeah, okay, you didn't launch with a ton of maps, but like, I think that now it's like kind of being given more of a pass when we see like a $70 product like Modern Warfare 3 come out. And it's large. It's like 3 big team maps. That's all you get. You get three, maybe 4 big team maps, if that. And then pretty much all your maps in 66 rotation are maps from Modern Warfare 2 2009.
Mm-hmm.
That's a rough look.
Yeah.
That's a really rough look. I would rather take getting the 6 or 7 original maps I did with the launch of Infinite and the 3 big team maps and that be a free to play multiplayer experience, by the way, then pay $70. And it came with probably the best Halo campaign since, I don't know, 3.
Yeah, I could argue that.
I
liked 4, but I know
I fucking
generally
love 4.
speaking,
I fucking love 4.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I don't know, 4's far back enough. 4 was 10 years ago. Well, 11 years ago, Corey.
I know.
Like 11, 12 years ago, something like that. Like, I was a freshman in college when that came out.
Oh, I'm aware. Dude, that game looked so good for being on Xbox 360.
2012. It was 2012. It was 11 years. It was, you want to know how I know it was 11 years ago, Corey? It came out the month that I met my partner. We spent the early months of our relationship playing so much Halo online.
Good times.
And she was so bad.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. I played a lot of big team. That's where I like refell in love with big team battle.
Big team battle.
Big team battle. I say all that. I didn't say all that to like divert the opening. I know we're gonna get into some Game Awards topics here at the top. So like kind of a common theme this weekend, especially our next episode, which will be the results. But our first 2 stories are about the Game Awards tonight.
They are, Josh. They are. Before we get into that, though, have you played anything recently? Like good?
Persona 5 Tactics.
Oh yeah, how's that?
I really like it. If this is a comparison I saw online, if Mario Rabbids is like a kid's first RTS tactics style game, this is Weeb's first RTS tactics game. It's a good game. The story, like, I'm probably about a quarter of the way through. The story is like pretty nonsensical. Like, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense where I'm at right now.
Yeah, that probably makes sense.
And I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, even in the context of Persona, like it's kind of weak, which is a shame because that's the strength of Persona is the storytelling and the characters.
Yeah,
it's cool to get to spend more time with the Phantom Thieves, but I'm like, all right, this has to take place in a really narrow window, and they're trying so hard not to refer to, because it takes place largely after the events of Persona 5 Royale. So it's
Mhm.
trying real hard not to reference the events of Royale. And I'm like, why set it after that if you're not going to reference what happens in it? It's very much the core cast. So like, hey, the characters from Royale don't show up, at least in the base game. There's some DLC planned for it, I guess. The art style I think works in game context, but it is jarring when
Mm.
you're because it still has the visual novel approach of a Persona game,
Ah.
and it is jarring seeing these little like cartoon avatars, the way that they're drawn, like the chibi style.
Mhm.
It's really really grating after a little while. The music's incredible. It's the same composer that did Persona 5, Persona 5 Royale, and that did Strikers. So that's cool, like a bit of continuity between everything. Um, the new character that's one of the new characters. There's two new characters that kind of joined the group. Uh, Toshiniro and Irina. Irina feels like a natural for the Persona franchise. I would not object to seeing her in a real game. Um, but honestly, like the biggest thing that this game did was just make me want to go play Persona 5 again.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like that, and that's not a bad thing. Like this is it's probably a pretty. I would say it's a pretty solid. Like, well, I'm bordering on giving it an 8. I'm probably about a dozen hours in. I'm maybe a quarter of the way through the game. I'm the level cap I think is 100, and I'm at like the low 30s already after the first quarter of it.
Hmm.
Um, so it's cool. It's on Game Pass. If you like tactics games, it's definitely a different spin on tactics. Because like you can still use your Persona powers, which is interesting.
Mm.
You still do Persona fusions in the Velvet Room. Um, I don't know. It's not a difficult game. I'll put it that way. It is not challenging. It is not hard. You can set it to like super easy mode too.
Nice.
The other game I've been playing, I started it the other night when I couldn't sleep. I started Jasant.
Ooh, how's that going?
It is one of the more unique games I've played this year. There is no dialogue at all in the game. The story is the game is largely told through the environment and through letters that you find throughout the game.
Hmm.
Referencing the people who used to live here and like the spires from like the ancient past and this and that. The climbing mechanic is really cool and it's really stressful because you have to hold like 3 different buttons when you're trying to do it. So like you're feeling like that you're kind of like feeling as tense as the climber is
Mm.
when you're doing it. I set it to really there are a lot of accessibility settings in this game. Like by the way, this should absolutely if it wasn't called out by the Game Awards for its accessibility, this game absolutely is like a poster child for what should be winning that award. You can simplify it as much as possible to be like a simple button click. You don't have to hold down buttons while you're doing it. It's just like when you approach the wall, tap A, boom, you're climbing. Um, that is like a relief. My hands cramp very easily when I'm trying to hold multiple things down. So that was really nice to get that. I imagine it's even better if you have something with paddles or like if you're using like an accessible controller and you can just like have like a big ass button to hit for it.
Right.
So it's really nice. It's definitely Don't Nod's best game since the original Life is Strange, I would say. Not that they've had a ton since then, but like outside of the original Life is Strange, this is probably their best game.
Hmm.
Definitely deserves the scores it's been getting. It has I think it has an 83 on Metacritic.
Hmm.
I don't know if I'd give it that. I want to finish it first, but it's a relatively short game. I looked at how many chapters are in it. It's a 6-chapter game, and I got to chapter 3 after like an hour and a half, and I was not rushing.
Interesting.
I did not feel like I was rushing. It's pretty straightforward too. There's like little nooks and crannies and like secrets to discover, but it is not a long game. It is a great like 2-night game if you're looking for something off Game Pass.
Nice. Awesome.
Corey, what have you been playing?
Well, Josh, over break I finished 2 video games. I finished maybe I finished this when we recorded last, but I finished Miles Morales.
Yes, I believe you had finished that when we talked last.
And I finished Spider-Man 2.
What'd you think of Spider-Man 2?
It was I mean it's fun to play. I want to say the pacing of the story is really hit or miss. I definitely think I have okay. I not really spoilers for the game, but kind of like a direction story or spoiler, I guess. Like the way it ends, and I know Insomniac says that Miles Morales is their Spider-Man, their main Spider-Man moving forward.
Yep.
And I think that is a great idea. I think he's a more interesting character at this point since, Peter Parker's been around for, 90 or 80 years or something ridiculous like that, right? I think I feel like the mid credit scene and the end credit scene make it feel like Peter's story is not finished, and I want to know how they're going to handle that.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked Miles' story in this. I wish
Miles had the way better story, in my opinion.
I want to see where it goes with this. I feel like I wanted to see more of that instead, and maybe we'll get DLC that explores that. Maybe we'll get Miles Morales too uh, at some point. But I was a little bit underwhelmed
Yeah.
by Venom in particular.
I would, to an extent, I agree. I like the twist on Venom this time around.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
think the twist on Venom was good. I felt like the pacing of that story.
oh, it's absurd.
It's
Like Act 3 is ludicrous. That is like how the Avengers are like looking outside and just like closing the window. There's
yeah,
the best review of this game I saw was a tweet that said the Avengers in this world have to be absolute bums because there's like 29/11s happening outside their window during Act 3 and they have a do not disturb sign on.
right. I yeah, I think it's I liked the twist. I felt that the pacing was bad, and again, this was the same complaint I had in the first game to an extent was they they had like 15 hours to explore this story and they kind of shoved most of it in the last 2 hours of the game. And I don't know. I just felt like the story pacing was really bad, but it was really fun to play. Uh I was shocked at how much it revolved around Craven actually. Uh, for the most part. I mean, I knew he was going to play a big part, but that he was in it a lot more than I expected. Uh, but yeah, I still think the Miles Morales game is the best of the three by far, in my opinion.
It's the best paced in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think this has some really incredible writing and some absolutely phenomenal set pieces. In particular, there, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't played the game. There is a chase scene involving Miles
Mm-hmm.
towards the end of. I would put it at the end of Act 1, maybe beginning of Act 2.
Mm-hmm.
That came completely out of left field for me
Mm-hmm.
and really opened my eyes to like the possibilities that future games could have. Um, that was really cool. I think the stuff with Lizard is dragged out way too far,
Oh yeah.
way too long,
Mm-hmm.
way too long. Didn't enjoy that. I really like this game's Craven.
Yeah.
I think this game's Craven is really well done. Did you do any of the side content?
I did some of it.
Did you do the drone missions out of curiosity?
Some of them. Yeah.
So the end of that storyline, because there actually is a story, the end of that storyline, I think tees up the DLC for this game.
Okay.
Or at least a potential Miles DLC.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I enjoyed that. The side content I think is better than the main game in a lot of the ways. The friendly neighborhood Spider-Man missions are some of the best things I've played in a game all year.
Yeah.
Specifically, there's three missions I want to call out specifically. One is the mission where you play as Haley, the black deaf girl that is in
Mm-hmm.
Miles's class that uses sign language to communicate. Her mission was awesome. You take control of her for one of the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man missions. That was really cool and really special. Um, the second, and this is the one that really like it really hit me hard after what's happened this year.
Mm-hmm.
When you track down the grandpa,
Mm-hmm.
And he's sitting, you know, where he met his wife and this and that. That was pretty heart-wrenching. And it really just like, I think it's like the most beautiful moment in a game this year personally. um and then the one with the pitch and handler from the last couple of games. um that one also, that one tugs at the heartstrings real bad.
Yeah.
um and it's just like, oh man, and it's so good. It's a testament to how good Insomniac is at writing. And they understand this universe, they understand the characters, they understand the world. You're getting so many versions of these villains that you're like, man, this is like maybe like a top 3 or 4 interpretation of this character ever across all the different versions we've ever gotten in like various cartoons and comics and alternate realities and this and that. Like, to say that the Insomniac Spider-Man characters are that high up is a mark of praise.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, they reinvented everything in a lot of ways, right? I mean,
I
they
find
really.
myself, and I'm curious if you feel the same way. I find myself kind of alone on this island that I don't particularly like Peter Parker in these.
Yeah, I don't really like Peter Parker in this game or in these games either. I think
Like specifically in two.
yeah, I didn't really care for him in 2, especially like I know they have to do this for plot reasons, but when
Hmm.
he got the black suit, like I don't know, I just feel like his angry voice is not.
Yuri Lowenthal's angry voice does not fit
Yeah.
Spider-Man or Peter Parker. That was kind of weird for me.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, like you said, there's no way around it because that's a trademark of like him being influenced by the Venom
Yeah.
symbiote.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't super care for when he had the black suit, like specifically how he treated Rio. Really felt like even something that Peter Parker under the influence of the symbiote wouldn't have done.
Yeah.
That really bothered me, and like how he just like casts Miles aside is really silly.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that overall, I think the game is really, really well done. The Mary Jane missions are still so rough.
Yeah, they're
They're
rough.
not as bad. It's funny, they're not as bad as the first one, but they're so much longer, which makes them worse.
Yeah. I actually didn't really mind them in this game as much just because you had the taser gun or
Oh
whatever.
my god. Dude, the sneaking through the fucking neighborhood was the absolute worst.
Oh yeah. It's so dark first of all.
Yeah, it's fucking dark. I already can't see well. Like I wear fucking glasses. I already can't see. I have my brightness jacked to the tits and it's still not doing me any favors.
Yeah.
It was rough. I did not enjoy that. And then bizarrely making her like such a huge part of the conclusion of Act 3 was just like super out of left field.
Yeah.
Like, and I won't spoil it for anybody who hasn't gotten there, but you hit a head scratching moment, and I got real lucky that a specific enemy got caught on geometry, and I was just like, "What the fuck? Like, how would I have done this like otherwise?" Uh,
Right.
so I don't know. I found myself kind of annoyed. How much prominence she was being given. And I
Hmm.
didn't really like Insomniac's explanation of it either. Like, oh, well, we wanted to show that she's a hero too. Like, well, you fucking know that if you know anything about Mary Jane. Like, you can see that from like the work she does in both games. Like, well, really in all 3 games, like behind the scenes. Like,
Hmm.
you don't like we didn't have to give her a gun to prove that.
Yeah.
So I found that like kind of goofy and corny.
Yeah.
Last time with Spider-Man,
Yeah.
for me at least, I really like Harry Osborn in this game.
Yeah.
He wants to be the Spider Pals. I love it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it so much.
I actually thought like that whole section was going to last longer than it did.
I wish it did, but for pacing reasons, I'm glad it didn't.
Yeah.
I think they showed just enough because they wanted to like hurry up and get it to get you in it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I like that for him, at least for how he is in the first act until he transfers,
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that it borrowed a lot from, and it, like the costume look too borrows from Agent Venom.
Yeah. I thought that was a cool nod.
I thought
I
that was a
loved.
very cool nod. There's a lot of nods to like all the different symbiotes and like the different
Yeah.
symbiote stories that have been told in the
Hmm.
universe.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really well done. Specifically, a twist that comes in Act 3 that I did not expect. I
Yeah.
knew the suit was there. I did not expect a specific twist though. And
Yeah.
that was really, really, really cool to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I also liked the amusement park section.
That was a nice. I think they did a good job at, like, there are certain sections that are like a nice reprieve, like that, the friendly neighborhood missions.
Mm-hmm.
There, one of the neighborhood missions is a flashback to Peter selling his first picture to Jonah.
Yeah.
Missions like that I think are so cool to take us out of, oh, you just have to beat the shit out of people for 20 hours straight.
Yeah.
I think those are the best moments in Spider-Man, are like the humane moments to me.
Yeah.
And like that is when we talk about Insomniac nailing the feel of the Marvel universe and nailing these characters, the fact that they got that, like, those are some of the best moments in Spider-Man comics.
Yeah.
And then they just nail it here, like when he's just, I think back to in the Avengers movies when he's when Tom Holland is talking to Iron Man, and he's like, can't you just be like, a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man?
Yeah.
And it's, it's kind of a joke because, like, that Spider-Man doesn't really, outside of like Homecoming, doesn't really know what it's like. Like, he is, he's in Europe, he's in space, he's zapped away and comes back 5 years later. Like,
Right.
my man doesn't, he's dealing with the multiverse. Like, my man doesn't know how to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Whereas, like, this is the exact opposite. And
Mm-hmm.
that is one thing they really nail. As much as I may not like Yuri Lowenthal's interpretation, like, especially when it comes to Miles, they have nailed that feeling of, like, this is his neighborhood.
Dude,
Like, with Harlem and with Brooklyn.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really know a lot about Miles before
Mm-hmm.
like playing the games, right? Like
This is
I
a
knew
great intro to Miles.
I love that character so much. Like I haven't even seen like the Spider-Verse movies. So like this whole experience this year playing through all three games back to back to back has been getting to know Miles is awesome.
I'm going to provide a really controversial opinion here. As much as I love the Spider-Verse movies, I think that this is the better Miles between the two.
Hmm.
Because I think this movie, again, like, it really captures what it means to be the neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. I'm really excited to see what they continue to do with this character. The potential plot lines for number 3 had me so excited. Thinking
I know.
about, and I do truly hope, though, that the Spider-Man games are at an end with number 3.
Yeah.
Not because I'm not enjoying them, but because I personally believe it's better to go out on a high note.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, and number 2, I don't want to see Insomniac turn into Marvel the studio.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
already making Wolverine. There's rumors that well, not rumors, they are making a multiplayer game, which a lot have speculated is going to be the Fantastic Four.
mm-hmm.
Personally, I think that it's going to be an Avengers game.
Mm-hmm. It could be a Defenders game.
I hope not. I really hope not. Man, all I'm gonna say is the tools are there for an Avengers game. Like, the Insomniac likes to prototype ideas years before they put them into another game.
Mm-hmm.
They've said, like, you don't get the web slinging in Spider-Man feeling as good as it did without Sunset Overdrive, for example.
Mm-hmm.
The web gliding suit makes me wonder what Iron Man flying in this game would feel like.
Mm-hmm.
There are some of the heavy attacks that you do as certain individuals that make me wonder what controlling the Hulk would feel like.
Yeah.
Basically at that point, you just have to kind of like have to prototype. And I mean, like, Miles's electric powers, that's kind of prototyping for Thor in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
Like,
There's also like there's also the Wolverine suit that you get in this game if you
though
beat
the
it on,
Wolverine
like,
suit was a fun nod, and they said they debated, the game director said they almost didn't include it.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to tee up too many things in their games as, like, Easter eggs, because they don't want the other teams to feel like they're forced to continue with an idea if it's not working.
Yeah.
And I thought that was actually a really, really smart answer, because I don't know a lot of other studios that would openly say something like that.
Right.
And I imagine Sony corporate is just, like, screaming when they hear that interview answer.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a phenomenal game.
Yeah. The ending of, like, the end credit scenes of this game really make me excited for 3. I want to
The
know what they're
teaser
gonna
the
do.
teasers had me so excited.
I know. Oh,
For longtime Spider-Man fans, especially like fans of like modern Spidey family storytelling.
hmm
I think that the credit scene included that has Miles in it
hmm
is probably the most exciting for a future game.
yeah. I thought that like I'm assuming that character that shows up is some sort of Miles focused villain.
Nope,
It's not.
nope,
No, no.
nope. I'll tell you off camera. I'll tell
Okay,
you off camera what has me so excited about it. But
okay,
yeah,
yeah. Uh,
um,
but overall, like
man,
these are kind of they're amazing games. No pun intended.
yeah.
I the it's funny
I would
because my
happily pay $70 for one of these games like every 3 years.
yeah I was my kids were watching me play because they love Spider-Man, and my son's
And they're
favorite.
definitely too young to play
Oh,
it.
oh
So,
yeah, yeah. But they like watching me swing around and fight bad guys and stuff. Uh,
mhm.
and my daughter was asking where Ghost Spider was, and I was like, I don't know. And then it made me wonder. I'm like, is she going to show up at some point?
As much as I like Gwen, Gwen has been in so much other media in the last few years, especially.
hmm
I'm really glad they didn't go the cliche route here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very glad because then that I think that also makes the Miles and Gwen relationship in the Spider-Verse movies that much more special.
hmm
Because if she shows up here, everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my god, she's got to get with Miles. She's got to get with Miles." No, Haley is a nice girl. We like Haley. We like Haley. Okay. And if Miles doesn't appreciate her, Genki will. Okay.
Genki.
I
Oh,
love Genki.
Genki.
Genki is one of my favorite side characters of like any Marvel property.
Yeah.
He's so good. Like he's so important in Miles' life in like every iteration that when Secret Wars concludes and Miles is brought into the real universe, into the 616 universe, Molecule Man not only brings Miles and resurrects his mom. His mom is the one who dies in the comic. He
Yeah.
brings his mom and his dad into the universe. He also brings Genki.
Mm.
And it's like that is how special their friendship is. That is like their friendship is like imagine if like Harry Osborn had never become the Goblin essentially. Like
Yeah.
imagine like that uncorrupted relationship with him and Peter. Like that's essentially what Miles and Genki's relationship is. Like
hmm
Genki is this super genius and like he just wants to be the cool best friend. The guy in
Yeah.
the chair, like Ned in the Spider-Man movies is basically Genki,
Yeah.
but not as cool.
Yeah. When he first showed up in what the Miles Morales game, I was like, is that Ned?
Yeah.
Because they
No,
look so
Ned is
ridiculous.
Genki. Genki is so much cooler. um
uh, but that's
should
that
we go go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah.
You got one last thought.
Well, not on Spider-Man really. I was just kind of wrapping up my whole thing, but I got a new TV.
Oh,
Yeah.
we got a new TV.
Yeah. And so I was playing a ton of games on it, and I got to tell you, man, they all look fantastic.
Was that a Black Friday purchase for you?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, I got it, and I wasn't going to open it until we moved
Mm-hmm.
because we bought a house, and
Moving TVs is hard.
well, yeah, it's hard, but also like we're not moving until we don't get the keys until February.
Nah, open that bad boy.
And I was like, and Best Buy told me that I had 15 days to open it and return it, and if it didn't work, they would replace it for free.
Yeah,
So I was
open it.
like, well, 3 months is longer than 15 days. So, but
Darn.
yeah. So I also bought a nice sound bar, which I can only use when the kids are awake, but it's still nice.
I bought a few smaller items. I was gonna pick up a ROG Ally last week and I just wasn't able to. Not due to supply issues or anything, due to my own finances.
Life.
I bought a lot of presents for other people.
Mm-hmm.
Guy got Resident Evil 4 remake. I picked that one up.
Ooh.
That was $30. Picked that up. Picked up Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes.
Mm.
I got that. That was $15 on Amazon. I figured for $15, if it's not good, then I at least can make my money back.
Yeah.
And then
It's fun.
several movies.
I like the main character in Three Hopes,
Mm-hmm.
but I do not really care for the game. I think the story is interesting. Uh, but
I
I
really
just,
wanted Engage to dip below 30 is what I wanted.
yeah.
30 is my sweet spot to pick up Fire Emblem Engage, and it only went down to 40. I am picking up Game Pass cards tonight, though, because
Mhm.
they're 25% off on Cyber Monday sales. So I'm going to pick up a few months there. I'm going to pick up probably like 6-9 months worth, something like that. But yeah, that did not pick up a lot. Did a lot of shopping for other people and for the kids in my life.
Hmm.
So because kids books were like all like buy two get one free, like everywhere this week. So everyone is getting superhero books for Christmas. Is the moral of the story here?
Fun. Nice. Love it. But that's the only annoying thing about the soundbar is the Xbox's delayed
Yeah.
sound, and I don't know how to fix it.
What brand did you get?
Samsung.
Oh, I can't help you there.
Well, that's like the one soundbar that there it needs to be like all kinds of thing. I'll watch a YouTube video or something. I'll figure it
I
out.
got
But
a I got a Vizio one and it worked pretty well right out of the box.
yeah, it's it's playable, but like when I was playing Destiny yesterday and you shot the gun, like I turned the sound delay all the way to 0, and like the bullet sounds didn't line up with the gun, and it was really bothering me.
Yeah, and that's gonna be a problem if you get to like something where you need audio cues like the oracles.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Uh, but I mean, assuming that I do that though, I'll have a headset on. I'll just pump the sound through my headphones. But there is a fix, but it's very tedious apparently. So, but anyways, enough about that. Let's talk about Xbox,
we
Josh.
have some brief news to get through.
Brief news. The Game Awards are supposedly moving away from the world premiere branding, as well as adding more security for Jeff Keighley.
I mean, so like last year absolutely could have been a complete catastrophe.
Yeah. Well, it
That could
happened
have
this
been.
year too.
Well, I'm saying in term not in terms of just somebody getting on stage, but like was somebody gets on stage with like a weapon,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like it could we could have seen something so much worse happen. They are incredibly lucky that that did not happen. So this makes sense. I mean, I think the only other option is to close it off to the public, which frankly, I personally think it should be. I think you should only be able to go if you actually work in the industry. That is going to be a super unpopular opinion, but no, y'all watch that shit at home. Like, congratulations if you nutsos ruined it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know, like, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, it should be an exclusive thing. Like, no, like y'all are a bunch of fucking weirdos.
Yeah.
The world premiere stuff is kind of funny. I
Yeah.
don't really care about them saying world premiere. I think Xbox is the bigger meme for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we literally it's the same guy who says it every year for Xbox.
I know. I think it's just one recording and they just keep using it. They're like, hey Steve, come in here in the booth. We need you to say world premiere just once.
World premiere.
Xbox console exclusive. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Jeff did say that in this interview. I don't know if it was with Video Games Chronicle or with someone else, but he did say there will be about the same. And he actually just wants to show off great game content, is the quote.
Unbelievable.
You know what would be unbelievable, Josh? A GTA 6 trailer.
I told you I think it's coming. I think it's coming.
Me too. I also think it's coming.
I don't know if it's going to be there. I mean, well, obviously we know it's coming. I personally think they could just like drop it on a Tuesday morning and break the internet.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if they'll drop it that morning, the trailer that morning, and then he'll show it again at the Game Awards.
I don't think so. I truly think like when they drop it, they're going to control the entire media cycle for at least like that day, if not that whole week.
Yeah.
I personally think it's probably dropping early next week.
Yeah, probably Monday or
Um,
Tuesday, right? I mean, that would
Monday
make
or
sense.
Tuesday, that's like one of the games that doesn't need any of the exposure from the Game Awards. And I think they want to have their own event too. Like if it drops at the Game Awards, nothing else is going to matter.
Yeah.
I think Jeff Keighley is smart enough to know that at this point. Although I think he would do unspeakable acts to get it there. It's
Yeah,
not
like
going to
triple
happen.
the amount of commercials or sponsors.
God, dude, it would 100% happen,
Yeah.
and I don't like that.
Yeah.
Um, man,
Yep.
big weirdo energy, man.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
I
like I'm like really I he there's another article that came out that said Xbox is definitely showing up. So I
Yeah, so
wonder.
that's what I wanted to get to.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll go with some predictions that someone who um would know stuff that's going on in the Xbox sphere is guessing. On the Xbox Plus Two podcast, I think that's what it's called. That Jez and Rand do.
Uh the God, I Xbox, yeah, the Xbox 2 podcast is what it's
I
called.
never remember what it is, and I
Yeah.
feel really guilty for it.
Their Patreon episode is called Xbox 2 plus 1.
Got you. That might be what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
They speculated on their last episode what Xbox announcements could be at the Game Awards,
Mhm.
and I want to say like I think Rand's are like totally unrealistic. He
They're always
predicted
unrealistic.
Gear 6, no.
No.
Indiana Jones, and the next game from Arcane Leon, either Deathloop 2 or a Deathloop expansion from them.
I don't
And
know.
I went no on 2 of the 3. Indiana Jones, I think you and I both like have speculated that we think that'll be there.
Hmm. Yeah, especially if they're going to try to push it out next year,
Well,
right? I
especially
mean,
after Todd Howard's comments too,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
show a reveal trailer now and then show gameplay during a developer direct early in the year.
yeah. If you're gonna show a trailer that's not gameplay, you should do it at the Game Awards and then show gameplay at your own thing during the summer.
What was more interesting to me was what Jez predicted. Jez predicts Indiana Jones, Perfect Dark. I do not think Perfect Dark is there for the record.
When was Perfect Dark announced?
2020.
2020, really? That
Yep. It has
when
been
was
rebooted. It's
when
been
was
rebooted at least once.
when was Crystal brought in to work on it?
Last year.
Last year. Yeah, I think it's too early for that.
It was either last year or it was like the end of 2021. Somewhere in there is when they were brought in. I know the game was rebooted last year to be in Unreal 5, and they took the opportunity to like change a bunch of things.
Yeah.
And that has led to apparently like development, like more stream. Again, Rebecca Valentine wrote a really great article over the summer about where the hell is Perfect Dark, and noted that production has seemed to like increase and gotten more streamlined since Crystal was brought in, but like still it's still like pretty rocky. People within the initiative estimated that you are still probably 2 to 3 years away from that game coming out, and that was as of this summer.
Yeah.
I personally don't think I think the next time you see Perfect Dark there has to be gameplay. And
Yeah.
I think it'll be at E3 or Summer Showcase.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the one more thing at the next Summer Showcase personally.
Yeah. I hope, man.
I think Hellblade has to be there.
Oh, dude, Hellblade has to be there with a
Release
combat I think they have to have some sort of combat trailer. I know
Hellblade isn't going to have much combat.
I know that, but I think to satisfy the people who are yelling at people about combat,
that's true.
You gotta like you and I know what Hellblade 2 is going to be.
We need to see some footage with like a UI.
Yeah, and I think you have to do one of those cutscenes into a like some sort of battle, maybe the first boss battle or whatever.
You got to do something. I would even be okay with not seeing that with the promise of it's going to be the showcase, because I think they're going to do another developer direct in January. That went over way too well this year to not do another one.
Yeah. I think you have to have a release date though.
I think a release date, the next time you show it, you have to have a release date.
It's been shown too many times without a release date.
And that may be why Jez doesn't have it on here, is because, Xbox may be planning to do their own thing or whatever. The most intriguing guest that he has is Project Suerte, which is the code name for the Monster Hunter style game from Certain Affinity.
Right.
And this is the whole reason why I wanted to bring up their predictions is I want to lead into an interview that Max Hoberman did a couple days ago. who is the founder and CEO of Certain Affinity. He says they have 3.1 projects in development.
3.1.
3 big ones, 1 small one. So he says in it, their main project is the partnership with 343. It's their biggest project. It's also their main project. That is, of course, them taking over the development of Halo multiplayer. Incredible choice, by the way.
Man, talk about a studio that Microsoft should just buy. I know he doesn't want to sell. I know like him controlling everything is kind of like his thing, but like, man,
they are about as close to a second party studio as Microsoft could hope for right now.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see some sort of like formal announcement like this next summer. Like, hey, we're not acquiring them. We're acquiring a stake in them, though.
Yeah.
I could see Microsoft like having like 49% control and Max retains 51 or something.
That or like they go and be like, hey, Certain Affinity is working on exclusive games for us for the next 10, like their next 3 projects.
Sign a long-term deal like you did with Remedy back in the day.
Yeah.
And here's why I wanted to bring them up, because the second project is a totally unannounced co-development. So they have somebody they're working with on something big and exciting that's brand new. It's an original IP developed by 30 to 35 people, and Max says they will probably announce the project in December. This is speculated to be the Monster Hunter style game, which we heard about, I think, last year from Jez. That Microsoft stepped in to publish it. They have a third project and a very small fourth project, which they have been self-funding. I don't remember if it's the third or the fourth that is the one that they showed at Gamescom, but they did confirm one of these was the game at Gamescom that got a lot of rave reviews. For the record, I have it screenshotted here. What Certain Affinity published this themselves on their website earlier this year. To close of Gamescom 2023, we invited a few friends for a hands-on demo of our latest game, an original FPS codenamed Project Loro. Development has been in the works since December of last year, but the game represents the culmination and distillation of decades of experience in the space. We're seeking a publishing partner for the game, so we aren't quite ready to share details, but we want to share initial reactions from private sessions that we held. Some of the reactions included genuinely a delightful surprise and mind-blowing experience. I love and play FPS games, but this is the first time in a long time I've seen something new that wasn't completely boring. It was incredible. I really liked Redacted. I wasn't expecting that, and it was awesome. No better use of my time tonight that I could have chosen than to come see this game. The controls are so realistic and so tight, you already nailed the 3 C's. And this is the one that has me the most excited, I think. Easily the best demo I saw and played at the show. Can't wait to see more. If Microsoft really is publishing the Monster Hunter style game, I fully expect them to step in and try to publish this one as well. Like you said, maybe get a deal going. They're already co-developing Halo. Like, why not basically just have them be a studio? Like, why can't you have a partnership with them? Like, I don't know, Sony kind of has with From in a lot of ways, or like they have with, I said earlier, the Remedy partnership, or, some of these ones that Microsoft had before they formally acquired studios. Max may not want to sell, and that's fine, but I mean, he's basically being funded by Xbox at this point.
Right.
So I'm very curious to see how this goes. I hope that their game is there. That would genuinely be a surprise because they've never made an original game. That would be a huge surprise, I think, to people. And like, oh shit, like Xbox really is like trying to diversify their portfolio here. Like, could that be one of the mystery 2024 games that Matt Booty was talking about? That would throw all of my predictions for next year just out the window if that was slated for next year.
Yeah.
We'll do some predictions when we come back from the holidays for what we think is going to also, because I want to get through the Game Awards and see if it actually gets announced. Man, just some really, really cool stuff happening with Xbox affiliated studios right now. Do we have any guesses? Like, outside of Indiana Jones, do we have anything that we think is Indiana Jones and Hellblade, I think, are kind of our guesses.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like those two are going to be there.
They can't skip the show after the outrage last year.
Yeah. I also wonder if they will show the new console, because it's going to be at, the Black Friday rush is probably going to be over.
That one, I think that's something you save and you show at your summer showcase.
Yeah, I thought that too, but they also,
I know they revealed the new console here, but I think revealing a new console when your box is not selling at all is totally different than, hey, we're really trying to sell consoles right now. We don't want to give people a reason to wait.
Yeah.
So, especially with like, this is the first time in the cycle that this and PS5 have both been discounted. I really think that I really think they like to, kind of try to empty this stock before they go showing it. I
Yeah.
think the soonest you're going to get that announcement, because they're going to tee it up for next fall
Mm-hmm.
to give you a reason not to discount it. So I think that the announcement will come. It won't be like the one more thing, but it'll be something that they maybe that and like the Elite 3 or something is
Yeah.
what they announce at Summer Showcase. Or even in
Yeah.
the week leading up to it. We've seen they've done announcements for hardware and stuff before.
Yeah.
I can't imagine announcing it now unless it's like coming out in like the next 2 months. But then if I'm a parent who bought this, I'm pissed and I'm taking it back.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
I guess like if I had to make like an out there prediction, maybe Double Fine is there. If I was going to make a guess, they've been working on games on like 2 other projects since before Psychonauts came out.
Yeah.
But that's God, God bless Tim Schafer. They're just going to let him do whatever he wants to do. I don't think they expect Double Fine to ever make them money.
Yeah.
It's just like, yeah, we own this quirky, weird studio. Okay, go do what you guys want to do. Here's the checkbook. Go do what you're gonna do.
Yeah. Man, I think the 2 safest bets are going to be Hellblade and Indiana Jones. I would love to see a Gears announcement, but I feel like that Gears is so
That's
big
a summer showcase.
that's a show ender or show beginner
Yeah,
announcement.
I would guess that Gear. I don't. It's funny because like I think that Xbox is at the point with their portfolio and like with who they own that Gears doesn't have to be your showstopper anymore. Because this is Gears 6. It's not like it's Gears 4 that kind of rebooted the
Yeah, but
franchise in a lot of
it's the end
ways.
of a trilogy though, right? I mean, I think
Possibly.
and I think there's enough Gears fans, although I kind of suspect that Gears is more like a Metroid for Xbox than, a Halo or something, right? But like
I think it's shifted. I think you're kind of right. It's shifted more into that, but it's still like when you think of like the pillars of Xbox, it's like it's one of those still, right?
yeah, yeah. And
Um,
it's been by the time next year, it'll be 5 years. I know they were working on that other project for a while, but
Supposedly, according to Jeff Grubb, that's canceled.
yeah, I know. But like what last two whenever they did the Microsoft layoffs,
Hmm.
earlier this year, I guess it was all hands on deck for Gear 6, right?
Matt Booty said he just met with that team in the last couple weeks.
Yeah. And
I
so,
gotta think that a Gears 6 announcement is coming like in the next 6 months.
yeah.
I really think that that's something that you put in your showcase though, because like
Yeah.
Gears is also one of those franchises where like, hey, we announced that it's coming out in 4 months.
Yeah.
Like you could just do that. Not that I think it's coming out this next year at all.
No.
Um,
I think
but that's
I think it's a 2025 game with I still think there's a collection coming next year.
man. We're on opposing sides of this. You also like Gears is kind of your Halo in a lot
Yeah,
of ways.
Gears. I mean, Gears is the reason why I bought a 360.
Yeah, I never I like Gears. I never had like that love for it, but I do genuinely enjoy the games. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do here.
Hmm.
The other thing I would say is, I mean, maybe you have maybe you get a Gears collection announcement here. That would be something that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I guess it would.
I think that would be way more likely than Gears 6.
Yeah,
But
but
at the same time, Microsoft showed off a whole ass console here.
my thing though too with Gears is like I don't think a collection would get enough people excited to show off here. I think what you could do is either show Gear 6 at your summer showcase and
Hmm.
say, "Hey, to hold you over until next year when it comes out, here's the Marcus Phoenix collection or the Xbox 360 collection or whatever," right? And uh
Yeah, that would be something that I think I would drop that announcement, kind of like how they did with Master Chief Collection and Halo 5.
yeah.
I would be like, I would want that to come out like a month or two after the announcement. They're like, put that out in like July
Yeah.
when there's
Well,
nothing else.
when they remastered 1, that came out at the beginning of September.
I would, and I understand that. I also look at like the lineup they had that year, and it was piss poor.
Yeah.
Microsoft doesn't have that problem anymore.
No, I know. I'm just trying to like. I think like
I think that's my issue with like so many of the remaster room. I know the Gears rumor has been around forever,
yeah.
but now with the Bethesda court docs, we also have the Fallout 3 and Oblivion one, so we know the Oblivion one exists.
What if
We
they
know
just did a
that.
big remaster announcement?
Man, and again, like you got to kind of spread these out a little bit. Like one a year, I think would be okay. But like we're over here like ragging on PlayStation for doing The Last of Us Part 2 right now, and we know the Horizon Complete Edition is coming or whatever, and they had one for Death Stranding and The Last of Us Part 1, and like at a certain point, and I do think that these are radically different, right? We're talking about games that are at least a generation old.
Yeah.
We're reaching back to the 360 for these games, right?
Mm-hmm.
I also like think there's a little bit of hesitance on Microsoft's part, knowing that all of these games did benefit from the FPS and 4K resolution bumps.
Yeah.
And I understand, like you want them on the same level, you want them on the same technical level as like Gears 5, which is a absolutely jaw-droppingly gorgeous game.
Yeah.
You want them on that level, and at the same time, if it's an outside studio doing it, I'm completely okay with it.
Oh, I don't think the coalition would.
My problem comes from taking any first party talent at this point away to make remasters or remakes is a problem.
I think you give it to someone like either Saber or Splash Damage. Splash Damage did Gears Tactics, and that game looks phenomenal. So I mean, the bones are already there too. It's not like you have to do a whole lot. I mean, game development's hard. I get it, but like the bones are there, right? So
yeah, and I think that's the key thing is like the bones are there. This is a beloved franchise. I don't think anybody would be upset with a support studio taking it. If Certain Affinity didn't already have other projects in development, I'd be like, give it to them. They've developed Gears maps for years too. I don't know. Unless I'm going to get something on the level, I really think Capcom has raised the bar for what we should expect from remasters and remakes. And like even the Dead Space remake, the Metroid Prime remaster, like I think like those three this year especially really raised the bar for what we should be expecting.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that what they did with Metroid Prime should be like the least that you do here, because that looks amazing on the Switch.
Yeah.
And plays like a dream from what I've heard. Like I personally haven't played it, but I think that's what you kind of have to aim for here. Like I don't think doing a Nintendo port is going to cut it here.
No.
I don't think, and I think there's going to be some hesitance when it comes to a Gears collection. Everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, we want all the multiplayer stuff. Everybody has this fantasy of it being like the Master Chief collection. That was a disaster.
Yeah.
It was a disaster. I know that they've learned a lot, and like, 343 is not in control of it. Well, unless you're getting the guys from 343 that fixed it to helm this, I'm going to be a little skeptical.
Yeah, but to be fair, all the Gears games are made on Unreal Engine 3, and Halo was made on 3 different engines.
I mean, sure.
On 2 different platforms.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't know.
Plus, you're trying to shove the remaster of 2 in there.
I'm going to keep being a negative Nancy. Oh, God, the remaster of 2 is beautiful, though.
I know.
I think the other problem is like you're trying to take multiplayer from like 4 or 5 different titles and make it all seamlessly work together, and that's really difficult.
Yeah, I think everybody just wants 4 different versions of Gridlock, in my opinion.
So I don't know. And then there's the question like, well, we're doing the first 3. Do we throw Judgment in there like we did ODST and Reach? And at that point, I think you kind of have to.
Yeah.
So even though Judgment is like the child that doesn't get talked about,
I know. I liked it though.
I didn't mind it. I think it's easily the worst Gears game.
Oh yeah, no, I don't disagree with that, but I didn't think it was like.
Yeah,
I thought it was like a solid 8 out of 10, 7.5, 8 out of 10.
I'd probably go with like a 7.5. Whereas like the others, I don't think I go below an 8.5.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was one of those late 360 games where you're like, oh. It came out the year that Xbox One did. Like, it probably should have just been an Xbox One launch title.
Yeah, but
I don't think anybody would have blinked an eye if it was.
Yeah, but at that time, right? I mean, they were transitioning Gears out of Epic and into the Black Tusk Studios is what it was
Yeah,
called.
Black Tusk was never supposed to touch Gears.
I know. They were working on that Shanghai game. That was codenamed Shanghai or whatever. And then Microsoft bought the IP and they probably didn't know where to put it. And then they're like, oh, here, make this for us. Trying to save the Xbox One.
Oh my god.
Rod Ferguson.
Rod Ferguson, the man is saving Blizzard now.
Yeah.
We had more layoffs this past week, Corey.
We did. Oh, gross.
Amazon lays off 180 employees, and that was particularly rough. Twitch was like largely spared this time.
Yeah.
The bigger one to me was, don't say those words. The bigger one to me was 505 Games.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet from somebody that said, because they published Ghost Runner 2, the nominees for Game Awards came out. Ghost Runner 2 gets nominated, and then they got laid off not even 24 hours later.
Yeah.
That is mind-boggling. And today, the 505 Games made an announcement that Ghost Runner 2 cost $4 million to make, and it's already recouped its budget and then some.
Yeah.
It's already made $6 million in profit.
Mm-hmm.
This is unacceptable.
Yeah.
30% of your staff, and you just made a Best Action Game of the Year nominee.
Yeah. I do want to point out, though, it's their parent company laid off 30% of 505 Games staff. It wasn't them in particular. Right?
It's still bad.
No, I agree it's still bad, but I if you're going to be mad at somebody, be mad at the parent company, I guess.
It's rough. It feels like every week we come in and we've got more of these stories.
Yeah,
and
I'm tired of it. I saw the meme or the article on harddrive.net or whatever that said Jeff Keighley adds biggest layoffs of the year award.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I have a really dark sense of humor, and that made me laugh a little.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, oh my god, he has to address this in some way.
Yeah, I feel like he should.
And I feel like I like Jeff. I've long advocated for Jeff as a champion for video games. Like, I truly don't know if there's like a better showman.
Yeah.
And Jeff has been in this industry since he was basically in college.
Well, he was 16 because didn't his dad work in the media business at some point?
Yeah, he worked in Canadian television.
Yeah.
And then when Jeff was in college is when Half-Life came out. That's where he got his start. He wrote to Valve because he was so excited about Half-Life, and that was his first ever project he did. Was he made a little mini documentary about Half-Life.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us know, a lot of us who are in our 30s remember Jeff from G4.
Yeah.
G4, and then transitioning into doing stuff for Spike. He was the guy you called for console reveals, and he was young.
Yeah.
This guy was fucking young. He was in his 30s doing this. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, he's so fake. And I'm like, I don't know a whole lot of people who have the passion that he has, though. He just wants to celebrate video games. Mm-hmm. He just wants to be a giant fucking nerd. And he doesn't, I feel like he wants to shy away from those really tough discussions.
Yeah.
Because, hey, we're here to have a party and have fun. And yeah. So I really hope that he takes some time at the beginning of the show to address this. And if you don't do it in the first couple minutes, then you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
And don't do it in the pre-show either.
Don't do it in the pre-show. Please, for the love of God, listen. We all love Uncle Phil. Don't bring Phil up there. Don't bring up Doug Bowser. Don't bring... God, please don't bring Jim Ryan up.
I wouldn't bring any executives up.
I don't want any executives up there when you're talking about layoffs, because all three of them have laid people off this year.
Yeah.
They've all had pretty massive layoffs. Yeah. So I don't want to hear about that up there. I want, you want to be the mouthpiece for the industry. And as for the art form as a whole, this is your time. This is a moment to take responsibility here when there is a looming strike coming by voice actors.
Yeah.
That is probably coming in the new year. Mm-hmm. I would say it's almost a near certainty that it's going to happen. And I think a lot of us are we're surprised it hasn't happened already. There's an animator strike coming. And let's be honest, this industry, we've said it time and time again, is rapidly going towards unionization.
Yeah.
And it's, it's big that you've got like, the head of Xbox saying like, yeah, we're not going to interfere with any attempts by our people to unionize. We're not going to get in the way.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to let it happen. And like, yeah, some of that's to get your deals through, but so that, labor unions don't scream at you.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, well, that's a pretty significant step, especially when you see that like Sega is essentially union busting right now.
Yeah.
It's rough out there. It's real rough out there.
Yeah. Man, as somebody who kind of works tangentially to the tech industry, we've seen it
Mm-hmm.
all over the place too this year, right? It's I don't know, man, it's rough out there, but I hope again everybody finds a new job or I feel for those affected. It's not easy. It's never easy. But there's a lot of talented people at 505, right? I mean, I hope they find their footing, right? Just like the people from Epic or Bungie or Microsoft or all the other companies that were laid off this year, right? I mean, had
Yeah.
layoffs. So
Yeah, everyone's has been touched by layoffs. There are no heroes. Corporations are not your friends, people.
yeah, as big of fans as we are, and we root for the Xbox and hope they sell games and do well, and their businesses, right? At the end of the day, everybody
Yep,
is a business, and they're going to make their bottom line the most efficient they can possibly be, especially in economic times like this. And they're going to try to be more efficient. And sometimes that means people get laid off, and it sucks, and it's a terrible thing.
it's
That
greed. It's greed and poor management.
yeah, and upholding the shareholders so their stock goes up, right? I mean, that's the other thing too, especially for companies like Epic and Microsoft, right?
Yeah,
So hope everybody out there finds something. But I hope we don't have to do this again for
I
a
really
while.
don't want this to become a weekly segment.
Yeah. This week's layoffs brought to you by nothing. All right, Josh. Turning around from layoffs to hiring, 343 is hiring for Forge content curation.
I can't believe they don't have somebody doing this already.
Yeah.
This
I
again feels like a really obvious thing.
yeah. I think they saw how popular the Forge stuff has taken off, and they're like, "Oh, we need to keep this going. We need to make that move before we have another situation like 2021, not
Can we
2022."
have this without constant remakes of the Pit being in the playlist? Because that's been really rough.
Yeah,
Pit from Halo 3 has been remade like 15 times in Infinite already, and it's gotten to the point where like half of my games on the smaller maps are just Pit remakes. It's really frustrating. Like, oh look, we're doing Samurai Pit today. Oh boy.
mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I hope that whoever this is like really taps into the Forge scene. I'd really love for it to be somebody who makes Forge creations already.
Yeah,
I think that actually should be part of the job description here, is like someone who has made and published stuff on Forge, and like not like, oh, they've been like most popular maker, but people have long called for, hey, hire some people who make some of your Forge stuff, and I don't think that's a horrible idea. I mean, I know that's a lot of level designers have said that they get their start in tools like that.
right.
So why not do that? Bethesda's hired people who make mods for their games before.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 343 should explore that. And I think moving to Unreal is going to make that a lot easier too. So
Yeah,
we'll see. I'm curious. I've seen some really cool Forge creations, but I hope that this person is focusing on like maps first and then like featured Forge creations after.
yeah. So, I don't know if you have anything else to say about that, but
No,
I really don't.
no.
The last story here, Josh, kind of a quick one. Gearbox's list of upcoming games has supposedly leaked online, which, shocker, it involves Borderlands times 2. So Borderlands 4, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands 2, and Brothers in Arms have all been quote unquote leaked.
I'll be totally real. The only thing that excites me on this list is Brothers in Arms.
Yeah.
I like Tiny Tina's, but I think it works best as a one-off game.
Yeah.
And then Borderlands, I mean, okay, it's gonna be more Borderlands. Like, it'll be fun for about 2 weeks and then I'm done.
Yeah.
Not to say those games aren't fun. They are fun. Just I don't know. I've never caught the Borderlands bug. I played 3 for like a week and a half religiously,
Yeah.
but that was a couple years after it came out. Bought it with all the DLC, got it for like $10.
Yeah.
Um, I would
It's
never drop $70 on a Borderlands.
yeah. Borderlands is a game that I feel like I want to like a lot, and I just don't.
Yes,
I just don't.
I feel it's funny. Like I feel like it should be something that I love, and I just don't.
Yeah.
So, but Brothers in Arms, man, I would be really excited for that. I think that it's hard for a game like Call of Duty to go and make a World War II game because you have the competitive scene.
Hmm.
And not to say that Sledgehammer's World War II game wasn't good or that Vanguard wasn't good. It's just so hard when you have a game that is a competitive FPS to do that.
Hmm.
So, because then that would imply that the game that came out the year before needs to continue updating their game. And at that point, I think most players are going to be like, well, why should we buy the new one?
Right.
That's the problem that Call of Duty has now painted themselves into. And it's funny, we have a Call of Duty story coming up too. That's the issue they have now weaseled themselves into, and why I think they desperately need to start having breaks between these games.
Hmm.
I think it would let you have more like unique perspectives and whatnot, or allow for alternating time periods, right?
Hmm.
But I think at this point, like people have played enough World War II games, especially from Activision, that they're like, no, we just want current and future stuff.
Right.
Like Black Ops is one thing, but like going all the way back to World War II for a competitive FPS is really rough.
Yeah.
And I think like there's a niche that Sniper Elite has found, and I'd like to see that niche like continue being explored by companies that aren't Activision. Like the Brothers in Arms trilogy is great.
Yeah.
Road to Hill 30 was one of the most underrated late PS2 games to me.
Right.
And then Hell's Highway didn't really like capture the same feeling. It was okay, but they've never really captured the magic of that first one. But I still remember that being like visually one of the best looking games of the early 360 generation.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I don't know why they didn't do another one. Like that was the best selling one. It reviewed well. Like, can we get
Yeah.
another one of these? And
It's
Modern Warfare changed everything.
yeah. Yeah. It's Modern Warfare, and then Borderlands obviously caught on to a huge
Yeah,
crowd, and
Halo was still huge at the time.
yeah. So
Yeah, all those are just issues.
yeah. All right, Josh, some DLC quickies here. Obviously, we'll talk about this more on Thursday, but Destiny 2, the final shape, has been delayed until June 4th. It was supposed to come out in February. I also got my email that said this collector's edition has been delayed until April.
Oh, mine said March.
Oh, mine said about April 2024.
Mine said will ship in March 2024, because I was very surprised when I got that today.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was not the news I was planning to wake up to this morning. I was pretty convinced they were going to wait until after the first of the year to announce it.
Yeah.
But Joe Blackburn, game director for Destiny 2, came out, did a little video today, and they had an official statement up on the website. They actually have some content planned, and I'm going to reserve judgment until we see what some of this content actually is. Right now, I'm not like super impressed.
Yeah.
I'm not like ready to bust out the torch and pitchforks. At least they have something, but I have a lot of issues with you're already not going to meet the deadline for your expansion. But hey, let's give the team even more work to do to get stuff made.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I can think is that maybe they pulled the seasonal team off working on stuff for episodes and put them on this.
Yeah.
So they're going to come out. We get Season of the Wish. By the time you're listening to this, Season of the Wish is going to be going live. And they said the story and the season are going to continue as normal until February. In February, we're going to get weekly pursuits called Wishes, and Moments of Triumph. In April, in March, we're gonna get Guardian games, which is supposedly revamped. It's never a good sign when one of the selling points is a holiday event by Bungie, because they're like notoriously not good.
Yeah.
Oh boy, another opportunity for us to spend money in the Eververse. Right. And then in April, they're doing a thing called Into the Light. And this is the thing that intrigues me the most, because they were very tight-lipped on it. It's going to line up with that coming out, or coming to the game is going to line up with another Final Shape showcase.
Yeah.
That they're going to do in April. They're going to show us more of the Final Shape then, which at that point, it's a full-on media barrage, because they're going to do a showcase. Sony is almost certainly doing a show in May. So they're going to show Final Shape at that again, and then it's going to come out on June 4th. Into the Light, the way that Joe Blackburn described it, and this made me so nervous because every time that Bungie has said something along these lines, it's always been bad.
Yeah.
Whether you've spent 5,000 hours in Destiny or you're a brand new player, we want you to be able to enjoy Into the Light. I was brainstorming this while I was doing a dungeon this afternoon with two of our community members, Joasis and Sammy, and we were talking. And the conclusion we came to was this basically has to be related to like the old campaigns coming back. Because what else would prepare you for the final shape that would excite everybody other than the campaigns coming back? And like I don't think that the old raids are coming back, but I think like they're gonna get that's probably when they'll introduce like a big quality of life update. They'll probably revamp the playlists around that time like they promised to do with the final shape.
Yeah.
Maybe Fireteam Finder goes live for real then. There's so many things that this can mean, and that worries me because that's about the only thing I think that somebody with 5,000 hours of Destiny would get excited about is old content coming back.
Yeah.
The other speculation we had is that they do that, but they also bump the release of Wrath of the Machine up from September to here. Because we're about to go 7 months without a Pinnacle activity.
Yeah.
That's a tough look. But then that leaves your 10th anniversary without a raid. Like, are you going to do 2 raids back to back? Like, how are you going to do dungeons? And like,
Right.
this begs a lot of questions about the content rollout for seasons or for episodes. I really think that what you should do is they clearly have done their best work when they have more than a year to work on the expansions.
Yeah.
Look at the Witch Queen. Look at look at Forsaken. Look at the Taken King. Like, that's the thing they all have in common.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that you would have a more successful expansion here if you allowed them 15, 16 months to work on an expansion
Especially
and
with
just
all
get
the
in.
stuff they're kind of showing off in the Pale Heart, right? Like that kind of seems.
Yeah,
I mean, I know it's just geometry and stuff, but like it feels like that play space is maybe a little bit more ambitious than some of the others we've explored.
absolutely. And like, we're going to talk about this more on Thursday. I don't want to take too much time here, but I think that you can get into a cycle where if you release the final shape in July or in June of this year, next year, put out the expansion in September. The year after, skip the year after and release it the following February to give yourself more time to make these expansions.
Right.
Like, there are ways to do this, and it's a matter of, will Sony allow that with their financials? Like, because this is going to miss the 23-24 fiscal year completely, and Sony's got to be pissed about that.
Yeah.
This was supposed to be like the big release at the end of like Q3, and it's not going to happen now.
Yeah.
So I gotta wonder what they're thinking. That can't be good, and I'm curious to know, like, again, like Into the Light. It has to be. I think it has to be stuff they were planning to do for the 10th anniversary, and they're just bringing it forward.
Yeah.
For me, it's gotta be quality of life updates mainly. It's got to be a bunch of things that people have been asking for. I don't know really what else you can do. Supposedly there was a content creator summit this morning before the news was announced. It was under NDA, and then they told them that they could talk about it after Joe's video went live. One of the details that was talked about that in that meeting supposedly is that they're going to have like 5 or 6 Iron Banner events throughout the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Cool. Like basically one a month. Like, all right, I could have kind of guessed that. I don't know what else you do. We'll speculate on Thursday, but yeah, this announcement. Like, again, Jason Schreier told us a month ago this was happening, and like, oh, it's not happening. It's not happening. Well, it's happening. So shut the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
This season looks it looks like it's gonna be interesting. And I mean, like, hey, if nothing else, like the story should still be good. So
Yeah.
I'm here. We're riding it to the end. We'll see what happens.
Yep. Man. Well, our next story, Josh. Did you watch the Suicide Squad 20-minute behind the scenes video?
No, I refuse to acknowledge it.
So they showed gameplay and quote unquote story missions, and then they released a Captain Boomerang trailer today, and I'm just like, I don't care about this game at all. Like I wish they would have just made another Batman game, or like pick a different character and focus on that. But
yeah, you couldn't pay me to care about this,
yeah,
so I'm good.
Yeah, I don't care, and I wish I did because I really like the Arkham games, but like I don't know, I can't do Suicide Squad. Sorry.
Nope, you couldn't pay me to care about this game, and unfortunately, it's Kevin Conroy's final appearance too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but those
that,
scenes will be on YouTube.
yep, yep. Or I'll play it when it inevitably comes to Game Pass 6 months later.
Yeah.
Ugh, God, next.
Next, uh Call of Duty 2024, Josh. Surprise, is a Black Ops game. And
Oh my God, I'm so shocked.
it's not the Cold War this time, Josh. It's the Gulf War.
Okay, we're clearly running out of ideas here. That was my first thought when I saw this story the other day. The only thing this game has going for it right now, because I mean I have no interest in fighting Saddam, is that it's the first Call of Duty ever in franchise history with 4 years of development time.
Yeah.
That is like there is no excuse for this game not to be like the absolute most polished piece of shit when it comes out. They already had to yank zombies to put it into Modern Warfare 3 because there was no other content.
Yeah.
So, like, are you gonna pump out another zombies mode next year? Like, I don't think so.
Zombies All Stars.
Oh my God! Please don't talk too loud. They're gonna hear you.
Remake the zombies mode from World at War.
It really annoys me that they're gonna have to dedicate space to this at the Xbox Summer Showcase.
Mm-hmm.
It actually annoys me that Call of Duty is going to be a fixture.
Yeah, I almost feel like they need a 2-day or like a 3-day event because they do that second one. But
I mean, man, they're coming up on it. I got some words to say about that down the line, but yeah, I was trying to do the math in my head of like, how do you announce more projects while giving updates on like the 15 games we already know about that haven't come out and have no release dates?
yeah,
We're coming up on this year is this Game Awards is 4 years since Hellblade 2 was announced.
yeah,
Next summer will be 4 years since Fable was announced.
yeah.
And since State of Decay 3 was announced,
Yeah.
State of Decay 3 probably will make it 5 years without being released.
Yeah.
That's the point that we're at right now.
To be fair, Fable did show the trailer with gameplay last year or this year.
I mean, it's something, but it's like,
yeah,
okay.
No, I know what you mean.
We have and I know that it's like a bigger Microsoft problem, and Microsoft themselves has even poked fun at it.
Yeah.
Before, but like, I mean, Contraband got announced in 2021, and we haven't seen a lick of that game.
Yeah.
We have the logo. We haven't seen any gameplay, and it hasn't even been mentioned since 2023. Anybody remember Everwild?
Yeah, I saw an article today that said Rare's still working on Everwild, and they're hiring people to work on it.
Yeah, that game's been rebooted twice, from what I understand.
Yeah,
I found an old article from Jeff Grubb the other day that I was laughing about. That after that awesome 2021 show that they had, when that was like Stalker 2, and they had the Halo Infinite multiplayer trailer there, and they had the announcement for Contraband, the announcement for Outer Worlds 2, and some updates on some other games. Jeff Grubb had an interview with somebody afterwards, and it was an unnamed source at Microsoft, but it was like a senior source at Microsoft. Like, their plans, like they just need, like, they were planning on Starfield, because that was the Starfield announcement too.
right.
Starfield and Redfall were supposed to anchor 2022 with Forza. They had 9 games listed to come out in 23. You want to know what those games are, Corey? Because not a single goddamn one of these games came out this year. It was Fable, what we now know as Clockwork Revolution, what we know now as South of Midnight, Avowed, Hellblade 2, Everwild, Perfect Dark, Contraband.
Jesus.
About the only game that wasn't on that list that we knew about at the time was Outer Worlds and State of Decay 3.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you kidding? Okay, so that's 8 games, but still 8 games. Not a single one of those is gonna make it out in 2023.
Yeah.
I
don't know if any of them will make it out in 2024.
There's no conceivable way that more than like 4 of these make it out in 2024.
Yeah, I would say 3 to be safe.
Yeah, I think 3 might be being optimistic.
Yeah.
Like, even back then, because I remember that exchange, Chris Dierig of Games Industry was like, buddy, I can tell you at least 3 of these games are not making out until at least 2024. And now we know the entire slate isn't making it out until at least 24.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
conversations are gonna have to be had about how early we're revealing shit.
yeah. I mean,
And
they're in
we
a hard
know that,
they're in a hard spot though, right?
yeah,
They have to let
they had to get
Xbox
people
players.
excited. They
Yeah.
had to hire people to make these
Right.
games.
Because a lot of
I
those
think.
trailers felt like, we're pitching this to have people be interested in
Well, so
developing this
they've come
too,
out and
right?
said that like Hellblade wasn't even in pre-production when they announced it at the Game Awards.
Jeez.
So, and then COVID happens 3 months later, so that
Yeah.
pushes everything back.
Yeah. Well, they were trying
State
to
of
get
Decay,
that when Ninja Theory announced Hellblade. Weren't they working on that Project Mara game?
they announced it about the same time. So, like, that game is still apparently in production, I guess. But we had like renders of the environments from that when they announced it. At least
Yeah,
that's gone radio silent in
the
the last 3 years.
the glass windows, the empty staircase, and the tile floors, and this like
Dude,
operating
I
room lighting.
what I can't get over is that. So now you look at next year, and if you hold to Matt Booty's thing of we're aiming to have one AAA game a quarter. By the way, if you did that with all the games we know about that are AAA level, you'd be set from now until the next console, basically.
Yeah.
And that's just the games we know about.
Yeah.
So spoiler alert, they're going to be doubling up in some of these quarters eventually. Like, it's going to be
Yeah.
a complete bloodbath out there.
Yeah, but I think you have to think that like some of the games they've announced are not considered AAA games, right? Like South of
Well,
Midnight, I feel like is a AA game, right?
it's not. It's not. They fully consider that sucker a AAA.
Oh my gosh, really?
They absolutely consider that a AAA. If it is an internal studio at this point and it is being worked on by a team of more than like 40 people, which South of Midnight is, they consider that AAA.
Okay.
Yep. 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 Keep in mind, we still haven't seen actual gameplay from that game either. But the way that they have described it also makes it sound like they're aiming for AAA. Same with Clockwork. And
Well, Clockwork looks like a AAA game.
I look at these and I go, I don't know how you release these games without cannibalizing each other.
Right.
Here's the problem. Like, Fable is probably the furthest along of those three that they showed this year, but I don't see a world in which you can put that and Avowed out within 6 months of each other.
Yeah.
Because
You
then
gotta
they're going to be constantly compared to each other then.
right. It's got to be like it would have to be like Fable and Outer Worlds 2 or something, and then then you pair like Clockwork Revolution and Avowed together or something, right? You can't.
So, like, the best guesses that we can really make for next year, I get this kind of would be like the last discussion we have tonight. We've already gone long enough. You look at next year and like the 5 games we know about, we know 6 games for sure next year, right?
Yeah.
Because since this interview that Grubb had, they have fully integrated Bethesda and they have acquired Activision Blizzard King.
Mm-hmm.
You have Hellblade, you have Towerborn, you have Flight Sim 2024, you have Aura, you have Avowed, and you have Black Ops Gulf War. God, that's such a fucking stupid name. Black Ops Gulf War. I'm going to say that again just so everybody at home understands. Cold War at least sounds kind of cool. Gulf War is like, oh boy, we're really out of ideas this time. I can't wait to play as Saddam Hussein in Team Deathmatch.
Oh god,
the way these fucking games are going. Hey, you could play as John F. Kennedy in Zombies back in Black Ops.
Saddam Hussein versus Snoop Dogg.
Jesus Christ! Listen, I got killed by Laura Croft the other day while I was playing a Spawn. So, you look at that, and let's assume for the sake of discussion that that Call of Duty is its own thing. Like, it transcends AAA classification.
Yeah.
Okay, let's assume that, because if you just automatically marked off your fall every year, that'd be really depressing.
Mm-hmm.
That leaves you with, like, I don't know, in the most optimistic timeline, we get Flight Sim, Towerborn, Aura, and Hellblade out the door before Summer Showcase.
Mm-hmm.
In the most optimistic world, you get Avowed out the door before then, too.
Yeah.
You could slide that into, like, that Breath of the Wild, or that, not Breath of the Wild, that's like Tears of the Kingdom release date area.
Mm-hmm.
I think that actually works really good. Or even, I mean, you could even drop it into that Diablo one, because I don't think Destiny should deter anybody from dropping a game the same day.
Yeah.
If that happens, I actually don't know what I'm going to do. But
I mean, you saw the Diablo expansion.
Well, and that's what I'm getting to. So they said that that's coming fall of next year. I think you can drop that in November and just move on with your life. You could drop that in October or November. It's going to be successful no matter what.
Yeah.
Move on. Call of Duty is November. You cannot put anything else out in November unless it's the Diablo expansion. That is about the only thing in your library that will not get completely steamrolled.
Mm-hmm.
You have the looming shadow of Grand Theft Auto 6. Where does that drop?
Anywhere at once.
Because when that drops, you have to get out of the way.
Yep.
You have to move. That is maybe the only game that could drop in November and go toe-to-toe with Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And it can drop whenever. They have a history of dropping in September. They have a history of dropping in April and in dropping in November. So good luck. When that drops, clear the rest of the month. You might as well not even release anything else.
Yeah. Well, most gamers will like then they'll be playing that for the next 2 console generations. So
yeah, like no joke. So you have a very narrow window where if you're Microsoft, you can plan for games next year.
mm-hmm.
And I figure they probably have 2 other releases from their own internal studios they're going to try to get out next year, which to my best guess right now is Indiana Jones and probably one of the 3 games that we saw this year.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine it's Fable. They swear that Clockwork is still early in development. That game did not look early in development.
No.
Plus, we knew about this game a couple years ago, too.
I still think Avowed is the other one coming out next year.
I mean, I have Avowed. No, we already know Avowed's coming next year. I have that pegged as coming out early summer. I'm saying in addition to the 5 or 6 games we already know about, like, what else can we do?
Yeah.
I think it has to be Indiana Jones. That would be my best educated guess is it's Indy, and I mean, maybe the only way I see that you get out of like 2 more internal games is if both Contraband and Certain Affinities games are ready.
Yeah.
Those I feel like you could put out in the summer or like in August and be fine. Save Indy for like your October drop.
Yeah.
As long as the words Forza Horizon 6 do not leave somebody's lips next summer, we're good. If that's the game we don't know about, there actually might be marches on Microsoft HQ.
Yeah.
Because, like, listen, I like Forza, but we don't need another Forza right now.
Right.
Horizon 5 is still going very strong. Do another expansion if you want to. Playground needs to get Fable out the door.
Right.
So, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fascinating because you're not going to see things like Perfect Dark and Everwild until they're ready to release.
Right.
I guarantee you see those when there's like 8 months left.
Yeah.
So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that we come back from the holidays. We've got one more show before the holidays. I'm hoping we come back from the holidays and are like, hey, we're getting a developer direct in like a week.
Right.
So.
Well, Josh, I think we did it.
I think we did it.
I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening to this episode of Xbox Casuals. You can catch us every other Tuesday on YouTube and podcast services of your choice. Josh, thank you for your time tonight, as always.
Always.
Where can we find you?
Twitter, @Josh_Finn, 2 N's. I'm still holding it down. Against my better judgment.
Yeah, well, there's no other place to go right now, so.
There really isn't. I hate social media.
I know. I've been off of it for a while. It's been nice.
I gotta get back to it.
You can find me at I am Corey HD on social media. You can join our Discord. You can catch our sister show Tower Casuals every Friday morning on your podcast service of choice in YouTube. Well, thank you everybody for watching and or listening. Until next time, we love you. Goodbye.